Remember that smell when you walked into Sam Goody? The fresh plastic of new CDs? The sound of music blasting through the speakers? Man, those were the days. But guess what? Sam Goody is gone. Poof! Just like that. All right, let's take a trip back to the 90s mall scene. Picture this. You're walking through those big glass doors and boom, the smell of Cinnabon hits you like a sugar rush. The food court is buzzing with people chowing down on greasy pizza and giant pretzels. Escalators are moving shoppers up and down like a never-ending parade of fashion. And the teens? They're everywhere, hanging out by the fountain, gathered around the latest arcade game, or just cruising the corridors in their baggy jeans and crop tops. It's like a teen movie come to life, complete with a soundtrack blasting from every store. Speaking of stores, remember how they used to compete for your attention? Each one had its own vibe, its own music, its own crowd. You'd walk into Sam Goody and get hit with that new CD smell, plastic cases gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The latest hits were pumping through the speakers, and you just knew you had to grab that new album everyone was talking about. But here's where things get weird. Imagine you're back in that mall today. You're walking down that same corridor, ready to hit up your favorite spots. But wait, something's not right. Where's Sam Goody? And what happened to that massive KB toy store that used to be right here? You keep walking, and it's like you've entered some kind of retail Twilight zone. Empty storefronts where bustling shops used to be. For lease, signs plastered on windows that once displayed the hottest fashions. It's like someone came through and erased half the mall overnight. You're probably thinking, no way, this can't be real. But it is. Over the last 20 years, we've seen a retail apocalypse like nothing before. Get this. In 2019 alone, over 9,300 stores shut their doors for good. That's more than 25 stores every single day. It's like watching your childhood disappear and fast forward. So, what happened to all these stores we thought would stick around forever? Let's start with a big one. KB Toys. Remember that place? It was like a wonderland of plastic and batteries. You'd walk in and be surrounded by walls of action figures, remote control cars, and board games. The noise was insane. Kids testing out toys, electronic gadgets beeping and booping. It was chaotic and amazing. But in 2009, KB Toys became history. Just like that, the ultimate toy paradise vanished. No more impromptu lightsaber battles in the aisles. No more begging your parents for just one more Barbie. It was game over for KB Toys. Speaking of blasting hits, remember when your favorite mall stores had their own killer soundtracks? Places like Wet Seal and Contempo Casuals weren't just about clothes, they were entire vibes. But while the music's still playing, these fashion hotspots have gone silent. What caused these teen fashion empires to collapse? Picture this. It's the late 90s, and you're rocking those massive JNCO jeans, strolling into Gadzooks like you own the place. The store's pumping out the latest Britney or NSYNC track, and life is good. You're surrounded by graphic tees, chunky platform shoes, and enough butterfly clips to start a small insect zoo. This was the golden age of teen fashion stores, and we thought it would last forever. But guess what? Fashion isn't the only thing that changes faster than you can say, "That's hot." These stores we used to live in, they vanished quicker than you could outgrow those platform sneakers. Let's take a walk down memory lane and see what happened to these fashion icons. First up, Wet Seal. This place was the holy grail for anyone looking to channel their inner pop star. At its peak in 2014, Wet Seal had 478 stores across the country. That's huge, but just 3 years later, poof, all gone. It's like the retail equivalent of a one-hit wonder. Then there's Contempo Casuals. Remember those jelly shoes and jam pants? Yeah, that was all Contempo. But even being the coolest kid on the block couldn't save them. They got sold in 1995, and after that, it was a slow fade into retail oblivion. You know what's crazy? These stores didn't just close, they crashed and burned. We're talking major bankruptcies, thousands of jobs lost, and millions of teens left wondering where they're going to get their next pair of low-rise jeans. It's like the entire teen fashion world got Thanos snapped out of existence. And it's not just us feeling nostalgic. Check out what this former Wet Seal shopper had to say. It was the only place to find the coolest clothes that made you feel like you belonged. Ouch! Right in the feels, am I right? But here's where things get interesting. While most of these stores were dropping like flies, one fashion chain managed to hang on longer than the rest. Any guesses? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't selling clothes, but gadgets that made you feel like you were living in the future. That's right, the Sharper Image. This place was like the Apple Store before the Apple Store existed. Massage chairs, air purifiers, and gadgets you never knew you needed, but suddenly couldn't live without. For a while, it seemed like the Sharper Image was untouchable, but even they couldn't escape the retail apocalypse. In 2008, they filed for bankruptcy, and just like that, another mall icon bit the dust. The Sharper Image wasn't the only store that seemed untouchable. Tower Records was a giant, a place where music lived and breathed. But even giants can fall. What caused this music empire to crumble? And which video rental behemoth thought it was too big to fail, only to be blindsided by a little red envelope? Let's rewind to the golden age of music stores. Picture this. You're walking into Sam Goody or Tower Records, and it's like stepping into a music lover's paradise. The air is thick with the scent of fresh plastic and the sound of the latest hits. Rows upon rows of CDs stretch as far as the eye can see, each one a potential new favorite waiting to be discovered. These weren't just stores, they were cultural hubs. You'd spend hours flipping through albums, chatting with fellow music enthusiasts, and maybe even catching an in-store performance by an up-and-coming band. The staff knew their stuff too. If you couldn't find what you were looking for at Tower Records, it was said that you just weren't looking hard enough. But then something happened that changed everything. Any guesses? Yep, you got it. The digital revolution hit like a tsunami. Suddenly, you could download any song you wanted with just a click. No more waiting in line for the new release. No more bulky CD cases cluttering up your room. iTunes launched in 2001, and it was like someone hit fast forward on the music industry. By 2007, CD sales had dropped to half of what they were in 1999. That's crazy, right? Imagine losing half your customers in just 8 years. But it wasn't just music. Remember Blockbuster? The place where you'd spend way too long trying to pick the perfect movie for Friday night? They thought they were invincible. But while they were busy charging late fees, a little company called Netflix was quietly changing the game. Netflix started out sending DVDs by mail in those iconic red envelopes. Blockbuster didn't think much of it at first. Big mistake. By the time they realized the threat, it was too late. Netflix had already moved on to streaming, and Blockbuster was left in the dust. You want to know something wild? Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for $50 million back in 2000. They passed. Now Netflix is worth billions, and Blockbuster, they filed for bankruptcy in 2010. Talk about a plot twist. But here's the real kicker. It wasn't just that these stores couldn't keep up with technology, it was that they didn't want to. Blockbuster stuck to their guns with those pesky late fees, even when customers were begging for a change. They thought they knew better than their own customers. Spoiler alert, they didn't. The same thing happened with music stores. They figured people would always want to own physical copies of their music. But once we got a taste of the convenience of digital, there was no going back. Tower Records closed its last U.S. store in 2006, and Sam Goody wasn't far behind. While music stores were falling like dominoes, the big department stores thought they were safe. After all, you can't download a new shirt, right? Wrong. These mall giants were about to learn a hard lesson about adapting to change. How many major retailers do you think closed their doors for good in the last decade? Let's talk about those massive anchor stores that used to be the heart of every mall. You know the ones I'm talking about: Sears, Penney, Macy's. These places were like small cities inside the mall. You could buy everything from underwear to lawn mowers under one roof. They seemed invincible, right? But even these retail giants weren't safe from the mall apocalypse. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck. These stores that had been around for over a century started crumbling before our eyes. Penney, for example, was crushing it in the 70s and 80s with over 2,000 stores. Fast forward to today, and they've shut down nearly 30% of their locations since 2019. That's crazy. And it's not just Penney. Malls across the country are looking like ghost towns. You know those empty storefronts we talked about earlier? Well, they're not staying empty. By 2020, mall vacancy rates hit an all-time high of 11.1%. That means more than 1 in 10 stores in your average mall is just empty. It's like walking through a retail graveyard. So, What happened? How did these massive stores that seemed too big to fail end up on life support? Well, it's not just one thing. These stores were like dinosaurs trying to survive in a world of quick, nimble mammals. They were slow to adapt to online shopping, stuck with outdated inventory systems, and couldn't keep up with fast fashion brands. But here's the real kicker. Just when things couldn't get any worse, 2020 hit like a knockout punch. You know who shocked everyone by filing for bankruptcy? JCrew. Yeah, that preppy paradise your mom used to drag you to suddenly couldn't pay its bills. They had over $1.6 billion in debt when they filed. That's billion with a B. Experts say JCrew's downfall wasn't just about the pandemic. They got caught in a perfect storm. People were already moving away from their preppy style, looking for more casual, comfy clothes. And when lockdowns hit, who needed fancy office wear anyway? JCrew was stuck with a mountain of inventory nobody wanted and a pile of debt they couldn't pay.